So I'm just going to start off, first of all, by saying thank you all for being here. This is really exciting. It's the first event that we're doing of this sort for Traveller. I know many of you have come to all of our other events on ground, and so it's just really nice to have you all here today in this new format, at least for a little while until we can go back to normal. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Divya. I'm the editor of Condé Nast Traveller, and welcome to this virtual malt appreciation session with Bowmore. What we've done today is we've tied up with Bowmore to put together this session for a very small select audience. So I hope that all of you enjoy it very much. We also have a food hamper that's been specially curated just for today. And we're going to be making our way through that hamper and tasting the malt as we go along. I think many of you, if not all, are definitely familiar with the brand Bowmore and the legacy and the craftsmanship that it stands for. But we have someone in our midst who can tell us a lot more about that. A very special guest this evening coming in all the way from Scotland, another benefit of doing this virtually. David Turner is the distillery manager at Bowmore in Islay. He joined Bowmore straight out of school when he was 16. Began working in their warehouses and other parts of the distillery, and since 2012 he's actually been traveling around the world promoting Bowmore. It sounds like a pretty amazing job to me. So there's definitely nobody more qualified than him to take us through this evening. So welcome, David, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us here. We've poured the whiskies, but the first thing I would say, we'll talk for about 15-20 minutes and then we'll taste the whiskey. So I always think in different countries, different room temperatures, but if you just sit with your glass and let it go to room temperature, and if you can just cover the glass, the whiskey will open up, the flavours will open up in the glass. So it's always good to have your glass poured and covered for about 20 minutes before we start tasting the whiskey. So welcome from Bowmore Distillery on Islay. Bowmore was founded in 1779. I'm not sure if you are familiar with Islay and the whiskies, but Islay is a small island off the west coast of Scotland. There's currently 8 working distilleries on Islay. Bowmore is the oldest. We date back to 1779. Bowmore is in the middle of the island, and on the south of the island is very well known for its really peaty whiskies. Coincidentally, Bowmore sits on the middle of the island, so we're a mid-ranged or a perfectly balanced Islay whisky, and we are mid-peated, so we see ourselves or call ourselves a mid-ranged or a perfectly balanced Islay whisky. So if you want to move on and have a wee look at the 12-year-old, we'll have a wee taste. As you can see, this is the bottle here. This one will be made up of about 60% bourbon and about 40% sherry casks. That's what's put into the marry of this 12-year-old. We put it into the casks at 63.5%. As it matures, we lose about 0.5% alcohol by volume every year. So after 10 years, the whiskey goes down to about 58%. We bottle the 12-year-old at 40% alcohol by volume. We believe this is the right strength and flavour for the characters we're looking for in the 12-year-old. If you take the lid off the glass and have a wee nose, you breathe in the subtle lemon, the heather, the honey. You get the maritime coming through as well. Also, Bowmore, as I said, we're a mid-ranged or a perfectly balanced Islay whisky. Islay is well known for the peatiness, the smoky whisky. In here, you get the distinctive Bowmore smokiness in the background. As I said, Bowmore isn't all that smoky compared to the other Islay whiskies. If you have a wee taste, you get the vanilla flavours coming through from the bourbon cask it's matured in. You get the sherry, you get the dark fruits like raisins and sultanas coming through from the sherry casks it's matured in as well. You get the coastal notes from the surrounding areas it's been matured in, and you also get the distinctive smokiness. The smokiness is just in the background. The smokiness isn't too strong. Take another wee sip. When you take the second sip, it coats your tongue. You get the saltiness from the sea where it's been matured in. You get the dry grass, the citrus, and the peaty, ashy flavours coming through. If I would add a wee drop of water to the 12-year-old, just a wee splash. If you take some water and just add a wee drop of water, give it a wee swirl round. Doesn't need much water. You can add another wee drop of water if you need to when you taste it. But if you smell it now you've added the water totally opens up the flavours. You get much more fruity flavour coming through. The peat smoke isn't so strong. Have a wee taste. This one totally opens up the flavours. Once you add it in the water, the water opens up the flavours, and you get like the saltiness, the maritime, and the tropical fruit flavours coming through there. So has anybody tasted Bowmore 12 before? What's your thoughts?
Bowmore 12 for me is a personal favourite. I was leaving town and unfortunately I couldn't get the box from Condé Nast, unfortunately, but I still had a Bowmore in my picnic basket to take out of town. So yeah, fantastic whiskey. Such a good gateway into Islay.
And there's an amazing balance of the peatiness is well complemented and balanced with, the smokiness, the vanilla, the chocolate, a bit of the tropical fruits coming in. So it's got a mega blast of flavors.
So we've got a hamper that we're going to try different foods with, but we do different dinners and pairings. Hopefully when the COVID-19 passes and if any use come to Islay, we do different dinners and pairings for VIPs who come to the dinner. So with the bourbon and the sherry and the different marriages in between, Bowmore goes well with different foods as well. You can use it for starters, or the Daskis sherries you can use for dessert, or the fully bourbon matured go well with starters or seafood
I think cheese as well is a great pairing with this.
Yeah, cheese and chocolate as well.
Should we maybe open up one of our starters and see how it goes? Roshni, do you want to try the cheese straw and just tell us how you feel? Like, what does it taste like?
It's very buttery, and there's a nice sort of like bite at the end. So, like a nice tingle on the sides of your jaw.
You know what I'm doing, honestly? I am dipping these cheese straws
into the pecorino.
The cheese.
The pecorino brulee just takes it to the next level. I thought that was a fantastic pair. The Parmesan cheese straws are also lovely, but the thing is, because they have just a touch of spice in them, that spice tends to aggravate the alcohol levels in the whiskey. And I thought the sweet, which is both the pumpkin fudge as well as the chocolate truffles, had a touch of sweetness in it, which was again maybe taking away a little bit of the fruit element in the whiskey, like taking away the fruitiness. But for those of us who really enjoy the peat and really want the smoky flavors to come out, it was really helping bring that out.
I have a question. When you do your pairing dinners at the distillery, what do you tend to recommend to your guests?
Well, we would pick kind of local produce from Islay. If we did a seafood starter, we would use a bourbon whiskey. If we did beef, we would maybe use a red wine matured whiskey. And if we did a darker chocolate dessert, we would use a sherry matured whiskey for it. We just kind of work with a local chef. So you're all familiar with Bowmore? Have you tasted Bowmore before, or is anybody new to drinking Bowmore tonight?
I'm new. Okay. This is a first for me.
First for me too.
Quite an indulgent evening, I must say, with chocolate and cheese straw and whiskey. But I'm not complaining. It's all beautiful.
If you're storing whiskey, have it sitting up the way. But every 6 months of that, just turn it upside down so the whiskey goes to the cork and the cork won't dry out and break up when you open it. But no, if you can store it in somewhere that doesn't have sunlight and kind of cool, a constant temperature all year round. Some people do it in their lofts and it's really cold in the winter.
Thank you all so much for coming in, and I really appreciate everybody taking up time. David, thank you so much for joining us all the way from there. Arjun, thank you very much, and your team in India as well. And everyone for joining us and being such good sports and eating and drinking all on camera for us. So thank you very much again for joining. And
thank you.
cheese.
Cheers,
and-
everyone. Cheers.
Oh, wow.
Slancha. Slancha.